Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to Worxmate, another exciting podcast. Today we will be discussing more on scaling smart by leveraging technology. And when I say technology, I am more referring to robotic process automation, how it impacts business, right? And that's something that we would like to take it to this podcast. We have invited Raman Khurana, who is the founder of Chiacon Consulting and has been sort of leveraging RPA for quite some time and have mentored and helped a lot of leading organizations across the globe. Welcome, Raman, to Worxmate podcast.
Thanks, Madhu.
So, Raman, what we'll do is we'll have a quick introduction of yours, and then we'll begin our conversation on RPA.
Sure, Madhu. Okay, just to give a quick introduction about myself, my name is Raman. I have been working in the IT industry for almost 2 decades now. I started my career as an SAP consultant when I started with Infosys, I think long time back, 2007. Then later I have worked with multiple different organizations like HCL, Accenture, Deloitte, to name few. Also, I got chance to work across multiple geographies. I have worked in India, China, Netherlands, Norway, to name a few of the countries I have worked. And almost after 10 years working in SAP, I switched to starting working into automation framework, then eventually moved to RPA, and now which we call as hyper automation.
Great, fantastic. I think, maybe I'm more curious to learn more about hyper automation. What we'll do is, right, to generally, when people hear about RPA, right, they may be having, a lot of questions in their mind, how it can help them and whatnot, right? So from your perspective, right, how organizations can leverage data and RPA, right, to streamline their operations and effectively drive their business outcomes. So what is your view on this?
Okay, when it comes to automation, like just to give our perspective, like how we usually work with different customers these days is there can be 2 different scenarios. So some big customers usually what they do is they start building their internal team first, where they have some clarity on what automation is all about, what tool they can use, what process they can automate. And the same side, there are some customers who are not aware of how automation can help them streamline their operations, and then how it can impact their outcomes as well. That is where our consulting comes into picture. And we start from like engaging with the customer, and then we ask them, okay, let's go through their complete process first. Which process are something which we can start with the automation first as well. And then what we usually do is we look through the process part first, then we bring the tool part as a second stage. Now, what RPA is all about is it can automate all those tasks which can define the rules specifically. Basically, like if we have some rules to keep doing some tasks repetitively, those can be automated using RPA. Second is RPA is not only limited these days to rule-based tasks, it can bring insights of multiple data into a single source as well, using which we can bring some analytic solutions on top of it. So just to give you an example, we recently worked with one of the FMCG customer, and they had their operations across multiple geographies. Like they are working out of India, Dubai, and Saudi, right? And they have different data sources, data present in multiple countries, and they doesn't have insights into their sales pipeline as well. Wow. So what we did is we bring automation first into the picture, where bots can go and collect this data and put into a single source of information. And on top of the single source of information, they can have some dashboard where they can see real-time picture as well, like how the sales trends are happening, how the sales data is evolving, so that they can take some informed decisions as well.
I think it's a a very classic case that you referred to here, right? A lot of times what happens, organizations may be playing around multiple data without realizing the impact of it.
Correct.
And sometimes because they don't get that sense of an understanding towards the data, maybe it impacts their decision making and thereby the business outcomes, right? So I think it's so you have shared a very, a great case today, right? And I hope that, those who are listening to us would also be able to understand how they can effectively utilize the data part.
Correct.
So when you do that, what sort of challenges, when you speak to the customers, they must definitely be talking about their challenges first. I mean, they come back to you and say, hey, you know what, Raman, we're going through this XYZ problems, right? So there are some initial level challenges which are directly impacting the operations productivity, maybe decision making to an extent, right? So how do you handle this and how do you solve this to RPA? Or maybe it's so-called hyper automation.
Automation. Yeah. So from our experience, what we have seen is challenges usually come into picture when the objectives are not defined clearly. So what happens is when we start with any customer, now the customer may want to leverage the automation, they want to do something, but they are not clear about what KPIs they want to achieve, what objectives they want to achieve using this specific automation when they are bringing into their landscape. And then what happens is sometimes the alignment of the technology or the tool that we're going to implement with respect to what business needs as a solution. If that alignment is not being done initially, that can bring a lot of challenges. It can be scalability challenge, it can be performance challenge, it can be efficiency challenge as well.
Yeah.
Another perspective to this is what we have seen again from our experiences. These days, there can be some resistance within the different teams as well. Because when we say automation, they always have this mindset, okay, if we are bringing automation, how it is going to impact them. But we always try to maybe educate them that this is something which is going to help you in terms of doing your manual work so that you can focus on more decision-making tasks. It's not like going to impact anyway to your work. It is just like a helping hand for you where you're doing anything manually. It can help you automate that task.
Correct. So, and that is where they figure out, how they can improve on the productivity or how they can sort of, simplify the entire process. Right?
Correct.
So, keeping that in mind,
yeah.
Please go ahead.
Sorry. I was just trying to add, like, when we see these different challenges, right? Because if these initial challenges are not being addressed, like if you're not able to clearly define the objectives, or if you're not able to align a specific technology or solution, how you're going to implement it, right? It can bring a lot of challenges after the automation as well. Like if business was not clear about like what they want to achieve, maybe once they go for the scalability, it can definitely give them, some roadblocks. They're not able to achieve the level of efficiency they were planning if they doesn't tackle these challenges at the start itself.
No, absolutely right. In fact, maybe it may give them a directions as well in future, right?
Correct.
I mean, once they start doing automation or probably start identifying the right data set or start building the pattern, right? I think it would also help them understand that how they can, kind of start learning the data and how it is impacting the business as well, right?
Correct.
So keeping those in mind, right? I mean, I'm sure, right, when people implement RPA, right, they also try and assess the impact of it in the organization, right? And it could be into various aspects, right? So do you guys also measure some of the key metrics as an example that has impacted in terms of improving efficiency or, once you automate, I'm sure, it will start reducing the cost, right? Or start improving the productivity or how much it has impacted the decision making. So do you guys, kind of study all these metrics?
Definitely. So whenever a customer is, planning to spend something on IT, they always have this in mind. What is the return for us if you're going for this particular tool, technology, automation, analytics, anything, right? So I will just give you one example. I remember during COVID, we started working with one of our US customer. They're into healthcare domain. So during COVID, what happens is because they are a global company and they have suppliers across the world. They have suppliers from China, India, Germany, US, everywhere. Now, what they do is they have their plants being centralized into Germany, US, China, right? And if one of the suppliers is, let's say, going down due to anything, where it is going to impact in their production line, which end products are going to be impacted, there was no clarity, no visibility, right? Because every supplier was just giving them information through email, through communication. Like, let's say we are supplying 400 parts to the customer. Out of 400 parts, let's say 40 parts we cannot supply now due to COVID or due to any restrictions, travel, transportation, anything. How it is going to impact my end products, this level of visibility was not there. And because the customer doesn't have that visibility, like how many end products are going to be impacted, even if single supplier is going down, and that information usually take 1 week to almost 15 days to analyze like how many production lines are going to be impacted, which products are going to be impacted, how much cost is going to impact us. So what we did as a solution for them is, because they were using SAP as a ERP system, we brought automation into picture first, which will collect data from different sources, from their BOM, like bill of material, from the SAP ERP system. Then it brings data into a database. And at the real
Right.
time, we build a dashboard. In those dashboard, they have options to filter out the supplier as well as the material. Now, as soon as we get the information, this supplier is not able to supply this material, customer can see which end products are going to be impacted, how much we are going to be impacted in terms of overall production line as well as the cost as well, right?
Right.
So there were multiple saving aspect for the customer. One was the time saving, definitely, because earlier they used to take 7 to 15 days in terms of analyzing, because there were multiple teams. Procurement team was getting the information, it was passing to the production team. They were
Right.
analyzing which products we have received on the information as a email communication. Direct saving was one part where we were able to save some time, and there was an indirect savings because we were able to mitigate a lot of like hundred of thousands of dollars in terms of saving, because we were able to make sure the supply chain is not getting impacted.
Got
And
it.
I think after this project went live, immediately next year when we had this interaction with the customer, we are still working with the same customer. So they were able to save $850,000 just because of this solution which we implemented for them.
Amazing. That's really amazing. And it's a great case study, Roman, right? I mean, maybe I would rather put it that more of like a, close to $1 million they have saved. It's a big number, right?
Correct.
I mean, and are they saving this on a yearly basis, or is it like cumulatively they have saved?
Annually. Now they're using this, I think, since last 4 years, because we implemented back in 2020, and they're still using this product.
Amazing, amazing. It's a great. First of all, I think that is where the advantage of technology comes to this picture,
Correct.
right? I mean, how it is impacting the business.
Correct.
Needless to say, it is a great case study, right? I mean, moving on to the same line, right? I mean, while we talk about how it is impacting and helping them realize the result, right? And needless
Mm-hmm.
to say, it's just not about the cost they have saved, right? Or the return they have realized, but I'm sure, right? I mean, they have also seen how it will end up impacting their business, and thereby
Correct.
how it will enhance their decision making process, and then ensure that how they can manage their supply as well.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So
So,
maybe if we can expand further on this, Raman, right? I mean,
mhm.
it's a great case study, and probably if we can expand on the same further in terms of how it will help in scaling the business on a long term, right? I mean, how do you see this? This will impact their long term growth.
So basically, what happens is, whenever we have real-time information or any data which we are bringing into some analytical solution, right?
Right.
Now, customer can always leverage that whenever they need to take any decision making. For example, if they're planning to expand into any different market, right? They can always see like what are the different specific suppliers which are providing me high risk materials. If the supplier is not being like able to provide me this material, how it is going to impact me, my expansion plan, my expansion into different territory, different geography. If i'm if i'm planning to expand my portfolio in terms of different products which we are planning to now start manufacturing, if do we need to have any backup suppliers from different geographies to mitigate this risk. So that is something which help them to define this decision from a long term perspective as well.
Correct. So in a way, you are referring that I'm sure, right? The moment your customer, the US customer of yours realize the benefit, they are experiencing it. They must have
Right.
start, kind of looking out, at the strategy part, which probably how they can apply in other areas, right? So it's just
Correct.
one area that you have expanded, and I'm sure while you mentioned you're working with them from since the last few years, you must have touched upon various other aspects, and
Right.
also, kind of, I think it also opens the mindset of start, and understanding that, oh, you know what, I can apply here, or maybe this is how I can change my decision. This is how I can change my strategies and whatnot.
So
Great. No,
like
it's a
as I mentioned, like sorry, this was just like one of the use case for the same customer. What we did is because now like they have suppliers, I think more than 700 suppliers they have across multiple geographies. Now what happens is these suppliers keep sending them invoices every fortnight, because it happens
hmm,
like which are material they are supplying, they keep sending these invoices. Now to process these invoices, there is a long process, because once you get the invoice, you have to validate if the invoice data is correct as per the PO which we have issued to the supplier, right? Now there were a lot of manpower was getting involved to make sure every invoice is getting validated, getting processed, and then being paid to the supplier. Now we brought hyper automation into picture. What we did is, now even once the supplier sends the invoice, there will be multiple bots which will not only see that invoice, it will extract the information, it will compare with the Oracle environment where they're maintaining all the supplier information, and then it will validate with the PO data as well. Then it will process those invoices. It's not only like just checking the invoice data, it is validating with against the PO as well. It is processing those invoices again for those suppliers.
Right. No, I think it's started to, I'm sure it has started making sense for the customers whom you work with, and probably who is listening to this, right? Or probably start learning more about it, that how it can impact the business. Now, keeping that in mind, Raman, right? I mean, how do you see the impact of RPA or hyper automation that we are referring to drive business performance? Right? I mean, how do you see this getting involved, over a period of time?
Okay, so when we say like how it is going to evolve over a period of time, so there are multiple factors, right? Now, what we are seeing in the market is this automation or hyper automation and analytical tool. AI is something which is going to impact every business, every IT outcome, right? And there are a lot of trends happening. There are a lot of trends unfolding, I would say. Now, the decision making, which earlier used to be on multiple static system, ERP system, statistical reports, now it is going dynamically on real time analytical solution, which are giving not only like historical insights, but future insights as well. Like how other different markets are evolving, how the currency market is evolving, how the countries are evolving with respect to supply chain as well. Like what are the different terms and conditions which are happening. Now there are different AI driven insights which we are adding to these products as well. It's not only like statistical, or it's not only like existing data which we are analyzing. We are bringing AI into picture now to all these tools and technologies which we are implementing these days.
Absolutely. So you just want to be, you just want to be like ahead of the curve, so that you know what's good, so you can understand what is coming and how you can quickly kind of proactively take care of it.
Correct.
And that also, I mean, you guys are also thinking in the direction of sort of guiding customers to help them identify new areas, because what happens, you keep kind of playing around the data, and it keeps giving you new patterns, new trends, and thereby how it may end up impacting the business. So are you guys also thinking in that direction?
So as I mentioned, like initially we work with different customers, and sometimes different customers have different requirements as such. So there are some customers who already have technological team who have identified the tool and technology, how they want to evolve in the digital transformation field. At the same time, there are some customers who doesn't have this level of IT experience or IT expertise. There is something where our consulting comes into picture. So when we talk about the analytical solutions, right? So my partner, like he is into the analytical domain from last 2 decades. So when there is any business process and if there is data being involved, so he has this sharp insights, like he can pick like this data can bring this level of information for the customer to help them in their decision making. That is where we work with the customers to not only identify the use cases, but how we can implement those use cases with the specific tools as well.
No, I think it's quite interesting, Raman, to learn about how you guys are actually impacting the operations part, because we can just imagine, right, a lot of leading manufacturing organizations to think about a lot of healthcare to pharmaceutical and to the organizations, hospitality industry having their presence across the globe, right, and impacting so many human lives, right. This can help them simplify the entire process. This can help them fix a lot of challenges in the operations that they come across, right? So, the kind of constraint they face and how they can solve it a real time basis. Great, Raman. So it's nice, talking to you. It's really, great to learn about how you guys are impacting the business and how RPA, or maybe I'm going to use a term called hyper automation. Right, is kind of driving the business. So thank you so much for making yourself available for the podcast. I'm sure your insights can help our audience in terms of learning how they can further utilize it better.
Sure. Thanks, Madhu. It was my pleasure to speak to you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Madhu. Thank you. Bye.